I thought Trump was joking when he asked for Greenland, but I didn't expect the Americans to be serious. Under Trump's threat, the Danish government gave in and said it could negotiate with the United States to give the U.S. government greater rights in Greenland. But this did not win the friendship of the United States. Trump's son visited Greenland in a private capacity and was warmly received by local politicians. Then the Prime Minister of the Greenland Autonomous Government announced that they were neither Danish nor American and wanted independence. In fact, this is the first step of the American plan. Once Greenland is independent, there are only 56,000 people, but 2.17 million square kilometers of land. The U.S. government can give each person in Greenland $1 million, and it only costs $56 billion to buy it, which is not enough to cover the losses of the California fire for a few days. Even if it does not buy Greenland, the United States can remotely control the Greenland government through agents and actually occupy the world's largest island. France, as the country with the strongest military power in the European Union, expressed its concern about the Greenland issue and condemned Trump's rude remarks. However, the French have completely forgotten their status. In the eyes of the United States, Britain is its real ally in Europe, and second-rate countries like France are just servants in the eyes of Americans. During World War II, it was the aircraft and artillery of the United States and Britain that liberated the French from Nazi Germany. The whole of France should be grateful for the contribution of the Americans from generation to generation. What qualifications do they have to point fingers at the United States? Germany, the economic core of the European Union, as a defeated country that has been militarily occupied by the United States for a long time, is silent in the corner in the face of a powerful master. The poor Danes protested. Isn't it illegal for the United States to do this to violate NATO's collective security agreement? But NATO is just a doorman raised by the Americans, and the United States is the only master of NATO. Collective security means that these countries cannot be invaded by Russia, but the United States can trample on the sovereignty of other NATO members at will. It doesn't even need to send troops to attack like Russia, and can achieve its goal directly through political blackmail. If Greenland can be independent from Denmark with a referendum, then why can't Crimea and the eastern Ukrainian region be independent from Ukraine with a referendum? Americans have always had double standards and do whatever is beneficial to them. And those European clowns who are defending Ukraine, the politicians of France, Germany, and Poland, why don't they immediately donate supplies to Denmark and send troops to help Denmark resist the invasion of the United States? Most people find it difficult to understand that even if Greenland belongs to Denmark, it is still under the control of the United States. Why does the United States have to tear its face and forcibly occupy Greenland in a way that seriously damages its international reputation? This involves Trump's strategic thinking. He wants to lead the United States back to isolationism. Trump is a businessman. He believes that the United States has taken too many responsibilities for NATO allies, which has placed a heavy economic burden on the United States. At the same time, these allies will only take advantage of the United States through trade and snatch American jobs. He wants to end all this. Once the United States returns to isolationism, it will be difficult for the former allies to guarantee that they will always submit to the United States. Greenland is far less reliable in the hands of Denmark or Europeans than in the direct control of the United States. Greenland has rich mineral resources, is a key outpost for the United States to intercept long-range missiles from China and Russia, and is also the core stronghold of the United States Arctic strategy. By taking Greenland, Trump will gain huge historical prestige, thereby fulfilling the slogan of making America great again and leaving a valuable political legacy to the Republican Party. Because Trump knows very well that it is no longer possible to defeat China in terms of economy and technology and make America great again. Trump wants to seize the Panama Canal in order to control the important trade channel in his own hands and prepare for a long-term confrontation with China. As for Canada, it has long been an economic colony of the United States, and its national defense is completely dependent on the United States. Trump just wants to extort some economic benefits, and he has no real interest in taking over Canada. When Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau was humiliated by Trump as the governor of a Canadian state, he did not show the courage to defend the dignity of freedom and democracy at all, and was as submissive as a servant who had made a mistake. This is in sharp contrast to his confidence when criticizing China and Russia in front of the TV camera. As for the Panamanian government's desire to submit the U.S. threat to the UN Security Council for discussion, it made me laugh. When Americans need UN authorization, the United Nations is the embodiment of fairness and justice. With the UN authorization, they can send troops to North Korea and attack Iraq. But if the views of the United States and the United Nations conflict, the United Nations is garbage in the corner, and the Americans will ignore it directly. Without the authorization of the United Nations, the United States can still dismember the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia and occupy the Syrian oil fields. If Panamanians still have some memory, they should understand that it only takes a few hours for the Americans to occupy Panama and escort their president to the United States for trial. Can the United Nations protect them? Trump's crazy actions make people look like a symbol of the United States' strong national strength, but in fact, this is the beginning of the United States' decline. Faced with China's rapid development in the economic, military, and technological fields, American politicians are increasingly lacking confidence in peaceful competition with the Chinese and are beginning to prepare for confrontation and war. The trade war and the technology war are just the starting point of the confrontation between China and the United States. The best outcome of this war of national strength is the confrontation between the two camps during the Cold War, and the worst outcome is a direct war between the two countries, which must be the last large-scale war of mankind. The Chinese do not need to be nervous at all, let alone engage in territorial expansion around the world like the United States. China needs to insist on exporting trade and prosperity to other countries, exporting infrastructure and science and technology, and driving other countries to develop together. If peace-loving countries in the world dominate the mainstream, and they are not inferior to those warlike countries in terms of technological level, the future of mankind must be bright. But the Chinese should not ignore the looming risk of war and should always be prepared. China may not win, but it must ensure that this is America's last war. And America's allies, please take note. You are not following a Superman who protects you, but a hungry wolf. When there is not enough food, you may go from being a diner at the table to a dish on the menu at any time.